Raise your hand if you've ever put off something important that you know you need to do so that you could, I don't know, organize the pantry, binge watch your favorite TV show, or just scroll through memes for hours. Yeah, me too. And that's procrastination. Procrastination. And today we're going to talk about what it is, why we do it, and most importantly, how we can overcome it. Procrastination isn't just laziness. It's the act of delaying or postponing tasks even though we know they're important. It's choosing short-term comfort over long-term goals or things that we need to get done to move us forward. Even if it's folding the clothes, we're still focused on that short-term comfort because we don't want to be uncomfortable, because we do not feel like folding the damn clothes. And so, what do? We spread all those clothes out on the bed. We pick out what we want for the kids. We pick out the clothes we want for ourselves. And then we put all those clothes back in the basket and put that basket up against the wall. I know my family's not the only ones that do that. But on another side, procrastination isn't just about pushing off things that we don't feel like doing. Certainly with the washing the dishes and the folding the clothes and, chores, that's putting off things that we don't feel like doing right now. But also in a life perspective or a business perspective, procrastination has a lot to do with fear. Let that sink in for a second. Procrastination is nothing more than fear. When we look at it from that perspective, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, sometimes fear of success. And a lot of people can't make that correlation. Like, what the hell does procrastination have to do with fear? Well, we're putting off tasks that we know we need to do because we're scared of the outcome or the potential outcome that may or may not happen. And I'll give you an example. The one that I can use because I'm most familiar with is cold calling. Whenever I was cold calling, I procrastinated much more than I should have because I was scared of what was going to happen whenever I started calling people. I was scared of getting cussed out all day. Once I overcame the fear, the procrastination went away as well. Once I faced that fear and realized I'm really not going to get cussed out all day. The fact of the matter is, out of the 100 calls that I made, I probably got cussed out 2 or 3 times. Now, that is a crazy percentage when in my mind, I'm going to get cussed out every time I call somebody. But that's just not reality. And so because I was scared to actually make those phone calls, I procrastinated. I had to make sure I had everything lined up perfectly. I had to make sure the numbers and the names and the addresses and made sure everything was perfect, and make sure I had that brand new blue G2 pen and that brand new yellow legal pad. I was just procrastinating so I wouldn't have to make the phone calls. But once I overcame that fear, the procrastination went away. And that's the same thing you have to do in your life. You have to overcome the fear. First, you need to name the fear. You need to figure out, what are you scared of that's prohibiting you from taking action now? Now, this is just life and business and progression. This is not putting the clothes up or putting the dishes up, because in my opinion, that shit's just laziness. We just don't feel like doing it right then, so we don't do it. But the procrastination of doing something that you know you need to do for your self-progression, that's got a lot to do with fear. That has a lot to do with subconsciously self-sabotaging yourself and holding yourself back based off of whatever that fear is. And so you ask yourself, so why do we procrastinate? Well, the reason we procrastinate is because our brains are programmed to seek comfort, to seek rewards. And that's why scrolling through social media feels so much better than starting the project that you need to start, because it's an immediate reward, because that algorithm, they got you. They got me, they got everybody. They're going to hit us with the shit that captures our attention and holds our attention for the longest time, because of that instant gratification that we all crave based off the millennia of programming that we've been through. And secondly, The tasks that we put off, like the clothes or like the dishes, sometimes they feel overwhelming. And when a task feels overwhelming, it triggers our fight or flight response. And so instead of just doing it, we avoid it. And again, going back to fear, fear of failure can paralyze you. And that's why so many people never reach their true potential, because we all come up to this wall or this perceived mountain, and we all have the option. Are you going to climb the mountain? Are you going to find a way through the mountain? Or are you just going to turn and walk away? What most people don't realize is there's always a path over the mountain. But because it seems so daunting, people just turn and walk away, not realizing that if they just keep going forward, the path is going to illuminate itself, and you're going to be able to get over that mountain. You're going to be able to get through that problem. But people don't like being uncomfortable. People don't like facing their fears because it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. It's the fear of the unknown. You don't know how you're going to do something. But, and I preach this all the time, all we have to do is face the fear. The fear goes away, and then we take one more step up the mountain. And then we get stronger as we go up the mountain. And so that's what people need to realize, is they're much stronger than they believe themselves to be. But we have such a society of people with these negative self-beliefs. They don't believe in themselves because they've been burned in the past. They've just been beaten down and worn out by other people or circumstances. And so they just lose the confidence in themselves to realize everything that they can really accomplish. Now let's talk about the cost of procrastination. Procrastination is not just harmless delaying of doing something. Procrastination actually comes with consequences. It comes with things like missed deadlines, lost opportunities, guilt or shame, and that deep feeling that we're not living up to our potential. And procrastination, when you continue to do it, it becomes your natural inclination when things get difficult. You just procrastinate, you put things off. And so when you start putting things off, you're going to miss so many opportunities that if you would have just faced that fear, you would have opened up a whole new realm for yourself. I mean, think about it. How much time have you wasted avoiding something that deep down you know that you needed to do? My guess is tons. I feel like we have probably all wasted tons of times in our collective lives pushing off things that if we just actually did it and got it done, we would move forward. And it goes back to the same thing. We blow up things so big in our heads, not realizing it's not that big of a deal, that if we would just do it and get it done, it doesn't suck as bad as we made it in our heads. All right, so enough about the problems. Let's talk about some solutions. I'm going to give you 5 strategies to help you overcome procrastination. Number 1 is you need to break it down. Whatever that task is, break it down into smaller parts. So often we look at these massive things that we want to do or that we have to do, and it becomes overwhelming. So we just never do anything, or we push it off until we're forced to do something. But just break it down into smaller parts. So like instead of start working out every day, just do 10 push-ups a day. Because what's going to happen is you're going to build momentum when you do those 10 push-ups. Let me tell you something. If working out is a thing that you want to start doing, but you continue procrastinating, everybody in existence has time to do 10 push-ups. Now, if working out's not your thing, if you have no desire to whatsoever, fine. What if it's reading a book? Okay, reading this thick book may seem daunting. Break it down. Read 10 pages a day. Everybody in life has time to read 10 pages of a book a day. So if that's your thing, find the time to read 10 pages of a book. Regardless of what it is, don't look at the whole major thing that you're trying to accomplish. Break it down into smaller steps. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. The second thing that you can do to help you to overcome procrastination is you want to use what I just recently discovered is the Pomodoro Technique. So what this is you set a timer for 25 minutes. And for 25 minutes, you work on that task. You force yourself to work on the task. Let's put a pin in that. So we've learned before, we think too much. We're always thinking about, I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like doing that. What we learned before is to take the emotion out of it and just do the task. So we'll take the pen back out and we'll start talking about this Pomodoro technique again. For 25 minutes, focus on doing a task. Set a timer for 25 minutes and work. When that timer goes off, take a break. Take a 5-minute break. And once that 5-minute break is up, set the timer again for 25 minutes and work for 25 minutes straight. When the timer goes off, take you another break. So after 4 sets of these, take you a longer break, get you a 15-minute break. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you keep from feeling overwhelmed, and it's going to allow you to capture momentum in whatever task you're trying to accomplish. The next thing you need to do to overcome procrastination, and we've already spoken about this a little bit, you got to face your fears. You got to ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Write it down. And remember that you always make the fear much larger in your head than it is in your reality. We all do that. That's a natural response that's been programmed in us since the beginning of time to keep us safe, that no longer serves us, that we need to overcome. We always blow that fear up bigger than what it is. And if you just face the fear, you will realize how small it is. And because we're talking about fear, I'm going to tell you again, probably for the 100th time that I've spoken in these videos, about my favorite quote from the Hormozis that says, "Fear is an inch deep and a mile wide." Once you can adopt that, you can realize you can step through it. Keep on walking through it. You're not going to drown. You're not going to sink. You're going to be fine. You've blown it up and you've made it much bigger in your head than it really is. And if you can get the courage to face it, you can overcome anything. The next thing you need to do is you've got to forgive yourself. You've got to give yourself grace for procrastinating. Don't beat yourself up all the time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Shit happens. We slip. We're not 100% perfect. Things are going to happen. Understand that going into it, that you're not going to be perfect. Hell, no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. I procrastinate on a lot of things. Procrastination happens. You just got to learn from it and move on. Here's the thing. Procrastination is not about time management. It's more about emotional management. It's about understanding why we are avoiding the things that we need to do and finding the courage to face it and do it. So remember, you're not alone. We all procrastinate, but we don't have to continue living life in this perpetual procrastination, putting off things because they're difficult, putting off things because we can't figure out how we're going to accomplish something, and putting off things because we're scared of what the outcome could potentially be. You can break that cycle of procrastination and start taking action and propel yourself to becoming the best version of yourself and becoming the type of person that can draw forth the life that you really want. But you're going to have to get out of this addiction to procrastination and this using procrastination as your go-to form of avoidance. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, ask yourself, what's really holding me back right now? What am I really afraid of? What's really going on? Is it fear? Is it I'm overwhelmed? Is it perfectionism? I need everything to be perfect before I get started? Figure out what form of procrastination you're dealing with, because then you'll be able to take the first step forward in overcoming it. And trust me, the first step is always the hardest, because our bodies chemically and our brains chemically are so used to pushing things off when they get scary, or using procrastination as an avoidance technique by planning, or using perfectionism as an avoidance technique by always having to plan and always trying to have all of the right information. And what happens, we just keep on pushing it until we're forced to act. But we don't have to get that far. We can act on our own volition before we're forced to act. And what happens is you learn how strong you are, and you're going to build confidence in doing things when you're scared. Otherwise, it's kind of like an example is waking up in the morning. Everybody can wake up in the morning, and they can wake up early, and they can have an easy morning until they need to get off to work. And they have all this time until they need to go to work. Okay? Or you can wait until the last minute when the alarm goes off and you have no more time whatsoever, and then you're rushing around panicking trying to get to work on time. That's the same thing. You got two options. And this is kind of like a metaphor for life. You got the two options. You can do it on your own and gradually and with ease, work your way into whatever it is, or you can be forced into it. And being forced into it creates the chaos, creates the just panic and fight or flight mode that you go into. But you can avoid all that. You can avoid that by just taking the steps that you need to take and not waiting to be forced to take them. That's all I've got. You got this. Now, just get started.